Today we're going to cover an exterior. We're going to go through our process here, having estimated and sold a lot of painting over the years. So if you like this, great. If you don't, we'd love to hear from that too, because I think there's different ways people do things, and this is just our way of doing it. So all right, let's do it. I'm Jon Bryant here with Michael Murray. We're going to use our 25, 30 years combined experience.
Oh, man. I mean, I've been doing this stuff for 22 years, so you've got to have more than like 2 or 3, I think, by now.
Yeah, at least something like that, at least 2 or 3. But we've done this a little bit. We always say, if you have any comments on whether you do it different, please leave them below. But we're going to go through our process here, having estimated and sold. What's the number? 50 million?
I don't know.
Plus
a lot
together. A lot of painting. We've done a lot of repaint work over the years. So yeah, Mike, you good to go through this?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So what we can see here is we've got a beautiful home in your home city of Cleveland, Ohio.
Go Browns.
Go Browns. It is got a number of different surfaces that we're going to talk about. We got brick. We've got, looks like some cedar shingles. We even have some stucco here up at the top. We've got some unique angles. As we go around the home, you'll see there's some other some features as well that we'll talk about. So just to give you an example, or not an example, but just a quick tour, we're going to use Google Maps here just to do a quick overview of the home. So this is what I do, what our team, what I train people to do. If you're doing exterior before you get there, have a sense of what the project is. Take a look on Google Earth. It's an amazing tool. So you can get your measurements here, which we will do just to help us out here. So clear that measurement. So let's take note of this here, Michael. We got the side of the house here. Looks like it is 30 feet long. And the front is, we're going to say 40 feet. So 30 feet by 40 feet. I think we're going to use a 3D angle here. Actually, let's do street view just to see what we're dealing with. We've got, what would you say on height?
Yeah, so we do 10 feet per story. I would, if I'm putting this in PaintScout on the front of the house, I'm going to call it 20, and I'm just going to add, I'm going to figure out that triangle kind of as a separate piece.
Sounds good. Let's take a look at the sides here. Same thing on the sides?
Yeah, I could call it 25. Just if I was at the house, I would call that 25. So yeah, 30 by 25.
That's what I would do too. We can talk about triangles a little bit. I mean, we've done it before. We'll do it again. Sure. Essentially what length times height divided by 2. But I've always found that if you just take the length and do half the height, you're going to get the same result.
Yep. So
there you go. Other side of the home. This one's a little bit more difficult to see. Let's back out a little bit here. Okay, let's go to our trusty. We'll back this out even further. Let's just see if we can get a height 3D view here. Okay, so we got some. We've got a bunch of windows happening here.
Kind of where are we? Oh, I see it. Okay, yep.
There we go there. So, okay, so we'll take note of that. But again, kind of same height, and it looks like probably 20 at the back, right? 20 for height at the back. Oops.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good view right there.
There we go. So we got 20 at the back. So we don't have that same side angle. So, all right. So you got notes of those?
Yep. And I think in Zillow there was a couple more exterior pictures we can see too.
Yeah, let's go back over here. So there's the front from the side. Obviously, we can't see all the window stacking, so we'll have to use our best judgment off Google Earth. Oh, we're into interior here. And there's the back. So, yeah, we don't have that either side very well, but we'll use Google Earth for that. So,
yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, let's start throwing some stuff in here. So, okay, bring up PaintScout here. And for those who are PaintScout users, you'll recognize the interface. If you are not a PaintScout user, well, hopefully you learned some things, and maybe this is the way of the future for you. We'll see. So we're going to add a new estimate. We're going to select our type, exterior. You can create templates. We're not going to go through that today, but really streamlines the process. We're just going to go empty quote. So do we need to put in the contact and job address here, Michael? Let's just go right to measurements.
I'm going to assume most people are pretty good on that part. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned like templates are a game changer. Mm-hmm. If somebody is a PaintScout user and they're not using templates, they need to check out some of the other content we have on that, or just schedule some time with somebody on the team, and happy to help with that.
Yeah, that's good. It's going to cut down your estimating time. by what, a quart to a quarter. It's crazy.
Yeah.
A lot. So definitely a huge feature. But let's start here. Let's put the front of the house in. So let's do everything. Why not, right? We can always break this down later for people, but let's do that. So we're going to start here with an area. And I always like to call this front of home. How do you do that when you're
we do the exact same thing.
Okay, so we're going to go custom area. We're going to call this front. We got our length, which was, I think we said 40.
40 on the front. Yep.
Height was just 20.
20. Yep. Yep. That sounds good to me. And so one of the reasons that we like to call it front, I think you and I, is this is not necessarily going to show up for the customer, but it is going to show up on the work order, and it's going to make this a lot easier for our crew to know, what section of the house they're looking at. So that's one of the important things that you want to think about when you're labeling some of these areas, which you'll see here as we go.
Absolutely. So it's about communication, making it seamless, and we talked about it before too, which is that like we're creating a plan here to get to a destination for our team, or whatever, sub or our team. In our case, it's teams because we have employees, but we want to give them an end in mind and make sure it's really clear. So, All right. First things first. Why don't we deal with this brick? How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good. I think in most situations, I would hope we're not painting this brick. To be honest, I think it looks really good.
I think it looks great too, but we know that people love a white or colored brick.
Yeah, we can put it on there, and maybe at the end we'll make it an option in case the customer wants to change their mind on that.
Love it. So let's go here. We're going to go with siding. I don't know if we have brick. There we go, brick siding. Okay. So these rates are, predetermined in PaintScout. We always talk about the fact that you may have to change them. Check out some other videos on that as well. We won't get into that today, but these are rates that we're going to be using. So 85 square feet an hour on brick. Should we do some tweaking on that right now, or should we wait till we go through the other elements?
Yeah, I think that seems a little fast for me.
Okay. Let's go into that.
And I'm going to assume, generally speaking, we would look at this as like a coat of masonry primer. For, those that use Sherwin-Williams, it'd be probably a Luxon masonry primer, and then 2 coats of like a masonry top coat. So I would separate those things out. Personally, we would have like prime the brick and then paint the brick as 2 different production rates, because sometimes you get to a brick house that's previously been painted, so I don't need to prime it perhaps. So again, just a couple different thoughts as to how you might accomplish that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would do it maybe a slightly different way, but to your point, I think it's slow. I'm sorry, fast. I think it's fast for what this is. So let's talk a little bit about that. So, right now the system's pulling a 40-foot length, 20-foot height. When for someone, looking at the details here, obviously this isn't a 20-foot height. So we do need to adjust that. But we also have this big chimney, right? So there's kind of some elements there that are, I would probably enter this in as a couple different rates. Like you said, I'm probably dealing with that main section of brick and around the door is one thing, and probably I'm going to deal with that chimney separately, just because we have some access issues. So let's adjust this. Let's go through this process. So I'm going to go 40 by 20. We're saying we got 3 coats, and you put this in first by like a priming of brick.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. If we're going to do 3 coats, then I'm going to assume 1's a primer and 2 top coats. So I would be good with that.
Okay. So this is a primer.
So I would say we're probably in the neighborhood of like 40 square feet an hour if we're doing 3 coats.
Okay, so let's go bump that up.
I would probably lower that.
Yeah, it's probably 40. So 10 hours, and probably there's some prep on that too, right?
Yeah, I mean, shouldn't be too much, but maybe a little bit of caulking around the windows and things like that.
Yeah, so I'm
obviously washing it. I would line item out washing separately, but
yeah, I'm gonna do. I think that's a great idea. So here we've got preparation being, just some basic
masking
stuff. Yeah, I mean, masking. Probably I'm gonna put 2 hours in there. So if you go, this is gonna cover all 3 of your coats on that section down the bottom. Yeah. So let's go here. Bricks.
First story, all the brick.
So paint brick. And what I like to do internal label is I go first story. Client label, just paint brick. Because then we're being clear to both our crew and the customer. So let's confirm that. Now we've got we've got that bottom section. Let's add in that chimney. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to copy this, and we're going to call this paint brick chimney. Okay. And how would you handle this one, Michael?
I think two ways. So how I would handle it is I would have done it from, just to make my life simpler, I honestly would have done it different from the beginning. I don't want you to go back and do it. Let me just explain this. And so I would have just had like paint brick as like the whole thing. I would not have separated the first story and then added a separate substrate.
Okay.
And so I would have paint brick. I'd have my 40 by 10. And then I would have clicked on the switch to square footage, which is going to show me the 400.
Yep.
Then I'm going to add my approximate square footage of what I think that triangle is above the front door, as well as the chimney.
Okay.
And the chimney, I'm going to call it like 20 feet tall, maybe 8 feet around, something like that. Round it up, call it 200. Okay. Maybe call it 250 with the triangle.
Yep.
So let's call it 650.
Okay. Let's put that in there so let's see.
400 plus the 250.
Yep.
And then that's going to give me, looks like 14 and a half plus the 2 for prep is 16 and a half.
Yep.
And then I would probably just put on like 2 extra hours just for like safety and having to get up to that chimney and like do it from the roof and, you know, things like that. Okay. Personally, at our company, we would rent a lift to do that because we generally try not to ever walk on a roof and certainly don't want to put a ladder on a roof. Mm-hmm. And so I would have a separate line item for a lift rental. But that's kind of how I would think through it. I realize that is maybe not even the most correct way of doing it, but I do think it's like a little bit faster than creating a separate substrate. Yeah. And I'm obviously doing a little bit of mental math. I'm doing a little bit of approximation in my mind. I think if, you know, again, I think we probably end up in about the same place if we actually separate it out. But so again, that's personally how I would do it. Been doing this a long time. So I'm probably like, you know, finding a quick little shortcut here.
So you like here, when you've got the, 16 and a half hours, you feel pretty comfortable with that. 2 people, 2 days, but you rent a lift. So you're probably adding what, another $500-600 in there?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. 2 people 1 day, just to go back to that point. But
yeah. That's kind of sometimes when I see these types of things, I'm looking at that being like, okay, yeah, I think that seems like a doable project on its own.
Yeah, I think like from a simplicity's sake, right? It's like if you said, hey, one person, can you go and prime all this brick in one full 8-hour day, if with a lift there?
Yep.
I got it. I mean, I got to think most people can say yes to that. You got to do a little bit of prep work, sure.
Yep.
So like in day 1, mask your windows, do some caulking, prime coat on all the brick on the front of the house.
Yep.
Great. Come back on day 2. We got all our masking and stuff still up. We're going to paint it one time. We're going to let that dry. And then we're going to paint it a second time. That feels about right.
Perfect. So what you would do, so let's go back here. Let's take away this other brick from your perspective. So we have the paint brick, and then you're going to add a separate line item here, or would you do that on the estimate itself?
For the lift rental?
For the lift rental, yeah.
I would put it as a substrate on the front of the house. Yep, just like you described.
So we would go here, and we would go, and we're just going to go dollars per item, 1, and let's add $650 in there. Perfect. Okay. So we've got now the estimate for the brick. That's perfect. Let's do that. The shingles. So again, same process for me. I'm going to go in and look at my siding, find my cedar shingles, and we've added those in. Let's tweak those a little bit. So again, this is only going to be 10 feet because we've only got that one section for 10 feet. My thought process is if I can walk through it quickly and see if it works for you, Michael, is that like I'm I figure there's probably, we're going to add washing. I think the whole house is a separate item, right? So you would
Yep.
do. It's just
Yep.
easier that way because we're going to probably have somebody go on a separate day and they need to know the time separately. But here, what I'm looking at is, okay, I've got a rate of 60 square feet. I've got a day for someone. I think there's a bit of masking, a bit of prep as well. So I'm going to put in 2 hours for that because just seems to be, you can break this down a little further, but just from my experience, I'm saying 2 hours for masking and caulking. We've already got, everything on site for the brick. So I think, looking at 9 hours total, show our formula here. For me, that seems like a doable amount for that section of the home.
Yep. I agree. That's exactly what we would do.
Perfect.
What if, so somebody's watching this might say, well, no, wait a minute. You've got, that's not like a full 400 square feet of siding there, of the cedar shake siding.
True.
Because I've got this brick and like the side on the left is like slightly angled,
Mm-hmm.
and there's even like windows that are taking out some of that. How would you respond?
So I think, it's, although correct, I always found the reality is when you're working around things, that takes time. Pretty much the same amount of time as actually just doing it full. And so we've always, I think like the PCA guidelines on this are, unless there's a certain amount of square footage that needs to be removed, whether that's a room or an exterior surface. Like if you have banks of windows, like full walls of windows, that you got to remove that. But in this case, we have a few things running through it. It's going to be more complicated in my mind to actually do the painting. So I don't take that out at all. Is that how you think about it?
I 100% agree with you.
Yeah. Perfect. And I think,
And it's also, I think I would also just go back to the point of just like, is the goal to make the price as cheap as humanly possible, or is it okay if we add in a little bit of extra buffer time in case shit happens? I think I'm going to be okay. It's like somebody might make the argument, well, I could get this done in 5.5 hours. And it's like, oh, that's not wrong. Like that is allowed. It doesn't mean that we can't charge for the 7 hours. The goal is not necessarily to figure out like what's the fastest possible way to do this. It's, we're not trying to overcharge for anything, but we also want to have some time to take care of like the stuff that is going to happen on pretty much every project.
For sure. And it's, like we got to add buffer times in here, right? If you're looking for exactness, like what project has ever gone exactly perfect?
It's not the
so
goal.
yeah. So what's that?
Cool. I said, that's not necessarily the goal. With estimating, it's not necessarily an exact science.
No, not exact. No, we want to have baselines and things we work off of, but it's also, this is a unique home. Like I've never seen. Maybe you have being in Cleveland, but this is a new type of home for me. So I'm using my baselines and trying to make that happen for this.
Yep.
So, all right. So let's add that in. Let's also do let's do this peak. I think a lot of people have questions about these peaks. What do you call that? I call it gables. What do you call that?
Sure. Yeah. Yes, that's what it would be, a gable. I don't really label it differently. It's still part of the front of the house. I'm going to go in, I'm going to add a siding, a substrate, and stucco.
Okay.
If we have that in our account here. Yep.
Yep. There we go.
I'm going to call it 10 feet. It's probably about 10 feet wide. I could hear somebody say it's 15 feet. Either way, we're splitting hairs here.
Yep.
And I'm going to call it 10 feet tall. I'm not dividing by two. I know it's a triangle. The reason that I'm doing that is because it's the third story and everything up there is going to take a little bit longer because it all has to be done on a ladder.
Yep.
And that's it. I'm done. I'm going to hit confirm and I'm going to move on to the next thing.
You're good with the 1.5 hours?
Yeah, probably. I feel pretty good about it. Generally at the end of the day, like I'm going to trust my production rates are accurate.
Yeah.
I think stucco probably goes a little faster than 85 square feet an hour, but it certainly depends on the amount of texture and stuff.
For sure. Yeah. Anytime it's third story, I'm always kind of looking at that being like, that's a little extra,
For sure.
Just to work around it. In my world, I might come down to 65 on that just to get to 2 hours, but
Perfect.
Yeah, again, we're splitting hairs, so we'll go back there. And for anyone listening, I mean, this is up to you to kind of figure out what your production rate is on that and how comfortable you are with that type of a number.
And I would also say, like, in my mind, I have a lift here.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because I already charged the customer for that.
Right.
And to your point, if we're not painting the brick, I'm not probably renting a lift because I don't need to get the back of that chimney.
Yeah.
In which case, then I'm probably going to want to add like an extra half hour to an hour just because of like some of the ladder setups and stuff like that on this peak and the trim up there too.
Absolutely. Okay, let's go through some of the trim. So let's do windows here first. And so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is that what you call that? 7 windows total?
Sure.
Yep. Okay. And I don't believe that there is any. Let's assume that this wood. I can't tell from this picture. Let's see if I can here. Let's go to Street View.
Yeah, just make an assumption.
Make an assumption. I think these are built-in lights. I think those are called in there. So we're just going to go with the window trim on that. So in my world, I'm calling that a medium window. Where are you at on that? 1.5 hours.
I think if we were just painting the trim around the window, let's just say like these were vinyl replacement windows or something. Yeah, I'm probably in the neighborhood of 30 to 45 minutes per window to paint the trim only.
Okay. So you're kind of a smallish window. I mean, you guys might have this labeled differently.
Per coat. So, also going to go back to that.
So 45 minutes, an hour and a half kind of thing per window, 2 coats.
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to go here.
So we're getting to the same place. It's just, again, I'm just explaining it for somebody that might be questioning that.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. So we got the 7 windows. Now we've got all this fascia, and it looks like a little bit of soffit. Kind of some dental trim, it looks like. So let's go here and add. We're going to add soffit fascia. And walk me through your thought process on this.
We don't have different standards for soffits or fascia based on like what story of the house they are on. Mm-hmm. I see the argument. I'm not saying that our way is right, somebody else's way is wrong, which they both sound good to me. So I would have soffits running up that whole left side of the house, probably about, for sake of argument, let's just call it 30 feet.
Okay.
10 feet coming back down from that top peak to the chimney, and let's call it like 15-ish from the right of the chimney over. Mm-hmm. So 55.
55, okay. And we've also got for soffit, okay, 55 on soffit. So how would you list this out? You just say standard soffit?
Yep, sure.
Okay. And we're going to go back in here and we're going to add, you said 55. Okay. So we got 4 hours. Any prep? Anything else you can add to
that? Prep's so hard to tell, but sure. I mean, there's obviously going to be some prep. Generally, no one has us paint the exterior of their home when it looks like it's perfect.
Yeah.
An hour or two, depending on how much prep it needs to be done. That's a little bit of the art of estimating. That is, you just kind of have to have a gut feel for how long that prep's going to take.
Yeah, absolutely. And prep work is one of those things I always find I like to add a little bit more time in for. I want to make sure it's covered. I don't want to skip through that process, but it really depends on how your customer feels about the project too, and trying to build that value argument into your estimate to make sure that you've got what their desires are covered. So that's what I'm doing.
For sure.
If they're like, I want to make sure this is immaculate, this job lasts 10 years, well, guess what? We're putting 4 hours in for that because I don't want to mess that up. Okay, so we got the soffits, and let's do the fascia. So the soffit fascia. How do you handle that part?
So we call every piece of trim that we haven't really accounted for, right, that is facing out from the house, fascia. Some, yes, there's fascias and freeze boards and rake boards and, things like that. At the end of the day, they all paint about the same speed. And so for our purposes, if they take the same amount of time, I don't need to like separate them into different categories. So we call it all fascia. And so that's going to be on that same like peak, I've got a fascia facing out, from connected to the soffit, if you will, next to the soffit. So that was 40 feet, I think, before. I've got like 15 feet below the stucco, right above that like double bank of windows.
Right here.
I've got, call it like 10 vertically on the peak in the middle of the stucco.
Yep.
And maybe like another 10 total, 5 on each side for those 2 vertical pieces.
Right here. Yep.
Are you keeping track of this?
No.
Okay, so I think we start with 30, plus 10 is 40, plus 10 is 50, plus 10 is 60, plus 10 is 70. Another 15 to the right of the chimney, along that, just underneath the soffit.
Yep. So we got 85.
I've got the piece that runs between the brick and the cedar siding on the left there.
Yep.
Seems like it's about half of the house, so we'll call it 20.
Okay. 105. Yep.
And then just that peak above the front door. Call it 10 and 10.
Sure.
20. Might be 25 if somebody, sure. Something like that.
Okay. So we're at 125.
Throw it in there.
Okay. So let's go here. Got the 2-story. And we got 125. Perfect. So a day for someone. I think that's manageable.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So we've now gone through the front of the house and we've itemized everything. And what this lets us do is we can break things out as options. We can do a lot of different things with this data. And I think the next step, which makes things so easy, is we're just going to copy this, assuming that these surfaces exist on all the sides of the home, and we're going to make the rest of this process really easy. Is that what you do, Michael?
Say that one more time.
I'm going to go here and I'm going to add the area. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this 4 times.
Yep.
So I'm getting all the sides of the home. Now we're going to go here and we're going to adjust, assuming that these probably similar surfaces exist on all the home. And then we're going to take things out. We're going to adjust.
Yep. The only thing I would do differently is I would have copied it once. I would have went to the left side.
Yeah.
Or pick a side, doesn't really matter. And then let's just, for the sake of simplicity, because the right side is easier, so let's just go to the right side next.
Okay.
That one should go super fast. And then when I get to the back of the house, I'm just kind of working my way around. I'm either going to copy the front or the right, depending on which one I feel is more closely resembling.
Yeah, love that.
I think the front's going to end up being like a little quirky because of the sides are not going to have the brick, most likely, or not as much. They're not going to have the lift rental. They're not going to have the stucco, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
It's, obviously this house being in Cleveland, I have a pretty darn good idea of what the rest of this house looks like before I even get there.
Love it. So let's go to the right side then. And
cool.
We said the right side was 30 feet. Does that sound right? 30 feet by 20 again?
So 30 by 25, I think we were saying.
25 by 25. Okay, perfect.
Because of the gable.
So we've gone and we've adjusted the surface height. Now we're back into all of our surfaces, our side height and length.
Yep.
We've gone and renamed it here. So when you click edit, you can rename. And we're going to go and let's take a look here, Google Earth, what this other side looks like. Okay. So look at that. Beautiful. We got just cedar shiplap, or cedar. What do you call that? Cedar shakes?
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to remove everything else. I guess we do have some brick. How do you account for that brick? Would you assume that's just part of the front at this point?
I'm going to assume it's part of the front. Even if I didn't add in the 3 by 5 section, I just think it's a rounding error. And it's going to be fine.
Okay, awesome. So we're taking that off. Lift rental on the side, are you going to use that at all?
Nope. If I've got a lift there, I probably won't need it. But hey, since I got it here, I'll make sure it's okay with the neighbor. We'll drive it up the driveway, maybe take care of that peak.
Love it. Okay. We've got no stucco, so we're going to remove that. Windows, we have that. Soffit.
Looks like there's 7 windows on the side, so we don't even have to adjust it.
Love it. Love it. Okay, perfect.
Doesn't always work that way, but I like it.
I like it too. So we're going to delete that soffit. And the fascia here, I'm going to call that 45.
Perfect.
Quick math. So we're going to go back in here and we're going to change this to 45. Great. And done. So there's your right side.
I don't remember if you did. Hit that cedar shingles real quick.
Mm-hmm.
let's just make sure, because I know we manually adjusted. Yeah. So let's go ahead
Yeah.
and click on that little warning sign.
Okay, sorry, yeah, let's do that. So click on the warning sign, reset the value. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, just to, yep, cool. So we
Good.
don't want to, whenever we manually override one of our area measurements and then we copy it, we want to make sure that we go back in and double check that. So just a
Good
quick
point. Yeah.
Yep.
Check all. I mean, we always say check all the surfaces, make sure they're good. Make no assumptions because those little things can make a difference in the end.
For sure.
So let's go to the back.
Love it.
This one here.
Now we're moving, right? So the front took a little while. Anybody that's watching this is like, the front, this is like watching paint dry. The front is complicated, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're trying to do that because we get a lot of questions about how do you do this when it's complicated? So hopefully that's helpful. But now that we're like the right side and the back, I mean, we're flying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So copy the right.
Okay, we're going to copy that. Go back in there. We're going to edit. And we're going to call this back. And we've got a length, I believe it's going to be 40, same as the front. And this looks like it's just 20 at the back.
Yep. I'm going to call the back 45 wide just to account for the bump out, right? So to the right of the air conditioning unit there.
Yeah, love that.
It sticks out a little bit. It might be 8. Again, I don't want to get too caught up in for the sake of this demo, but I want to account for that a little bit. So throw something in there. 20 feet tall. I love it. We're good.
Awesome. So we'll go check out our shingles, make sure we're good. So 45 by 20, good there. 15 hours. I think that's reasonable. Windows, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I do want to check something here though on the overall map just to make sure we're good. And again, like these are small details, and I've lost the home.
Uh-oh. And this is the kind of stuff like somebody watching might say, hey, this is taking a little bit longer than I thought it would. And it's like, yeah, because we're not on site.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like clicking back and forth between these pictures, let alone 2 people trying to talk about it. If I'm on site, like counting the windows takes seconds. We're not advocating for somebody trying to do an estimate just using Google Earth and Zillow pictures.
Yeah. It's too complicated.
Yeah, I mean, again, you can, but it's going to take, you're sacrificing stuff.
Absolutely. And for me, the thing is like, I want to get a start on an estimate and I want to have a conversation with a customer, potentially on the phone about their job and be educated enough that I can, talk comfortably with them about a price range, about what they're looking to do. I'm using these tools to get a baseline to cut my time down on site. Once I've decided I want to go check it out, I'm going to go check it out, do it all fully. But I might get the estimate, 80% done before I get there. And that's going to help me just have more time to, build rapport with the customer and also talk price.
Yeah.
So it looks like, just to kind of, so it looks like we got, I'm going to say another 4 windows there on the side that we can't see.
Are you counting those towards the back of the house or the left side?
I count that towards the back of the house. They're facing back.
Okay.
So we've gone and taken 40. So I'm going to go and add those in. So here, how many did we say we had on the other side? It was 9. What we got here?
We had 10 on the back
6,
to
9,
begin
10,
with. Yep.
plus
it was
4,
10
so
from that picture.
14 windows. Not 124, 14. Perfect at 1.5. Awesome. I'm good with that number. Fascia, I said 45 length. Here it looks like we got, you're going to count that bump out again. So 40, 45. Do you count the bump out here to be on the back or not?
Sure. Yep.
Okay, so 50. Let's call this another 10. So 50, 60. Here we've got, call another 70. Call it 80. How do you feel about that?
That's fine.
Again, if you're on site, you'll get these exact, but we're just guessing right now. So perfect. And is there anything else on the back side we need to take note of? There is a door frame.
I was going to say, probably want to add some soffits in the door.
Soffits in the door. Okay. So let's go back here. We're going to add our soffits again. And we've got our standard soffit. How much would you be adding here?
40.
40. Okay. 40. Perfect. And we add a door frame.
And we're going to assume the customer said, hey, you know what? We're not going to paint the brick foundation. If we're going to do the brick, it's just in the front for the look of it.
Sure.
Certainly could add that in. They also said that they don't need to do that small deck on the back. They just had that. They just stained that themselves a couple weeks ago. Whatever.
Perfect.
Let's not get stuck here.
Okay, sounds good. So I added a door frame in 1 hour. We've got soffits at 3 hours, so add that in. All right, and what side are you going to copy for that left side?
I'm looking. Probably thinking it's going to be similar to the other side. Again, it's hard. This is the side we have the least pictures of.
Yeah.
But based on like the size of it, it should be pretty similar to the right side. So.
Okay. So we're going to go here.
The right and the back aren't very different from each other, but
no, exactly. So 30 feet long, 25 high. I mean, this one looks like, 25 high still. We've got this big jet out of that roof coming down. But again, like I think this is complicated getting up on this roof. Accessing this little point here is going to be hard. So I'm not taking into account that roof. I'm just considering this, the same as the other side, essentially. Is that what you do?
Yeah, I think this is where that lift rental question is going to come in. I'm starting to lean towards we need a second day of the lift.
Yep.
And so you could go back to the front and double that cost. I'm going to call that a day rental.
Yep.
Or I could just add a lift rental at $600 or whatever your rate is for a day to the left side. That's how we would probably most safely handle that, and it's also going to allow us to get some of the stuff done a little quicker.
$1,200. Yeah. What I like to do is I always go here, internal label. I go, 2 days essentially, and then what I do is I come down here and I go, hide from customer, confirm. So it's in there, but the customer doesn't see. Oops, my bad there. It's actually supposed to be 1,200.
Right. It's not showing up in the like description of what's being included.
Yeah. So you'll see here, it's not here, but then when we come into the work order, you're going to see that there is a lift rental for 2 days. And so we've accounted for that. All right. So back to the left side, or I guess, left side of the home. So we've got cedar shingles. Look at that. Make sure we're good. So 30 by 25. I'm happy with that.
Sure.
Might be a little more prep work. It looks like a lot of windows on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, not that bad at all. So I think I'm good with that. How do you feel?
Yeah. So okay. It's obviously hard to see. When we're on site, that's easy.
Yeah, exactly. We'll adjust that to 8. We've got our fascia. Let's make sure we're good. 45. I think there's some. Yeah, I'm okay with that for now until I see it. Anything else we need to add here, Mike? Let's see here.
No, I don't. I mean, again, could there be a side door or something? Sure. Obviously, it's really hard to tell. I don't want to just go assuming stuff. So yeah, in general, I feel like we're at least 90% to as accurate as we would be if we were on site. And for the sake of our video today, I think that's pretty darn good enough.
Okay, awesome. All right, so let's add this all in. So just to complete the estimate here for everyone watching, so we've got the front side. That was our kind of more architecturally interesting, a little more difficult to paint area. We've got the front, we've got the left, we've got the back. Anything left here? I mean, the last thing I see is power washing.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead and.
Where would you add that?
Do that. You can. I mean, either. So just let's go. Here's how I would do it. Add an area. Okay. Call it whole house.
Would you be going and changing your dimensions there?
No. Go ahead and hit power wash.
Okay.
Let's just see how your production rates are.
Yep.
I don't really care about the dimensions for power washing typically.
Sure.
And because I would just use that power wash home 8 hours. Okay. I think 8 seems like a lot, so I might change that down to like 4.
4. Okay. Yeah.
5. Sure. I don't know, something like that.
Okay. Beautiful. And you just add that in.
Yep. We can talk about is this a lead house? Probably. So we're probably not power washing it anyway. I don't want somebody watching the video to get too complicated.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how you might do something like that.
Yeah. I mean,
and so
we'll do another video sometime on lead houses because it's a complete different approach. But
yeah, Yeah, sure. So I would group those all together.
Okay, so we're going to go here, select all of our items. We're going to group it.
So we're click on those gray boxes, hit group at the bottom. And so now I'm going to call it like exterior of home or something like that. That's going to make, this is the part the customer's going to see. And so this is now where we make it all pretty for the customer.
Beautiful. So what you going to change anything here? Or you can just leave it the way it is?
So the way that I like to do it is I'm going to like delete everything that's in this box. I like to use the bullet feature. I think it looks sharp. Okay. And then I just bullet point out the things that are included. So it's going to say cedar siding, or shake siding. It's going to say stucco, window trim, brick. Trying to remember what else we had. Fascia, soffit.
We've got door trim.
Yep. And so I'm just listing out the things that are included. If I forget, you can just scroll down and you can see them listed below the word items there.
Beautiful. Yeah, so you can see all the different elements that make up this estimate here. And is there anything we're missing? Do you list out power wash, or is that just part of your contract?
I would want it listed somewhere, so sure.
So power wash and prep. Okay, beautiful. Anything else to change in there, or just add that as a group?
No, that looks fine. Again, I would have a lot more details just as part of my template, but as far as building the actual estimate part or whatever, this is what I would do.
Okay, there we go. Now, for those listening, can you tell people why you like to group? Because I have my reasons, but
I just think it looks good for the client. It also keeps I like that it keeps it like separate for each like section, however I split it up, front, back, side, for the work order, right? So on the work order, it's still going to show front of the house and how many windows and how long it's supposed to take, which is great because instead of like just one big chunk of hours, like, hey, you need to get this project done in 170 hours. If I'm the crew leader on site, I can say to one of my painters, hey, I need you to paint the stucco on the front of the house, and here's how long it should take to get that done. It should be 1.5 hours. We can see that right there. It's really easy to find. And if you can get this done in 1.5 hours on the lift, we're going to be in good shape to be on budget for this project.
Perfect.
So that's, I think, it also grouping it allows you to change like as we were building it, we can have like the different heights and the different substrates and all the different things for the front and all the different sides and everything else, without having to think of it all as like one big thing. We can break it up, make it simple, and then group it all back together to make it all look nice.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. Yeah, the one thing that's interesting is simplicity is so helpful for customers to make decisions. Mm-hmm. And every time I've gone through the process of hiring a trade for whether it be my home or at our work, when it's complicated, I feel like I'm missing something, and they're trying to pull a quick one on me, or something's happening. And when I ask for my house to be painted, when I get every single detail, I get lost in the details. I expect the company I'm hiring to be, knowledgeable enough in the areas that I'm hiring them for. I obviously want the contract to list out what we're doing, and I think a lot of the detail exists in the contract we give our customers. But when you give people too much detail, it becomes like analysis paralysis, I think is the term. Yep. And so this just helps us have a clear conversation what we're doing, and then I can, if they have questions, then we start adding in more detail to this to make sure that we're clear. So, yeah.
I love it. Yeah, so hopefully this is helpful for people. I think we get a lot of questions on, how do we use PaintScout when it's not, perfect box or things like that. I think this is not the most complicated quote, but it's certainly not the most simple. And hopefully people found this helpful. Would certainly, as you mentioned at the beginning, would love to get people's comments and, feedback, what other types of videos they'd like to see going forward.
Absolutely. I think I'll just finish with one point here, Michael, too, is that, there's going to be some questions about the price. Obviously, different companies are run different ways. This price is going to be different depending on your company. The way the system is set up is to draw the amount of time out of your production rates, and then multiply that by an hourly rate. That hourly rate is going to be dependent on your business. Obviously, you, Michael, you add materials in separately. I don't. And so the system right now is just multiplying all those hours by an hourly rate. You are going to want to watch a video about that if that's something new to you, of how to get your hourly rate. And then we can also talk, and you'll see in other videos, we'll talk about adding materials separately. So don't get hung up on this as a price. Every company's price is different, but the thought behind how we got to that price is based on time, and it's based on a way that we've found to be replicatable for our companies and new estimators and everything that we're trying to achieve as a company. So that's what I would say there. Do you have any thoughts there, Michael?
Yeah, I agree. I think people get way too caught up on that. That's easy to fix. It's more about how many hours, like you just said. We can go in and change production rates. We change our price per hour easily. We change our price per hour all the time. We do that based on need, demand, how far out are we, and different things like that. And so, again, the nice thing about PaintScout is it makes it really easy to do that pretty quickly.
Cool. Love it. Look forward to your comments. Thanks for tuning in. We will talk soon.